TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
To our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Animaniacs, and we're zany to the max. So just sit back and relax. You'll laugh till you collapse. We're Animaniacs 2020. Brought to you by the good people at Amblin Television, Warner Brothers Animation, and Hulu. This is a reboot of the 90s cartoon that premiered on November 20th, 2020 on Hulu. Joining me tonight to discuss Animaniacs Old, New, and Blue, ladies and gentlemen, from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
Zany to the max. There's baloney in our slacks.
You know, one of the things I used to love about the old Animaniacs show is when they would do the title card opening. Every time, Dot would say something different. Here's a show that's Maney, or whatever it was she would say.
Yeah.
And those used to always crack me up. And I was looking forward to hearing how they were going to handle it this time. And literally every single time they would get to that part, my kids talked over it.
Well, duct tape your kids' mouths then. They need to learn.
I need to find somebody who's compiled a list of what Dot says during the title opening.
You know that's on you. For God's sakes, if there are several YouTube videos of Pinky's answer to "Are you pondering what I'm pondering?" then you know that exists.
Yeah, I'll eventually scour YouTube for it when I'm done watching barbecue videos and wrestling bios and boxing matches. All right, let's talk about the Animaniacs from 1993. 93 puts me in the 11th grade, end of 10th grade, beginning of 11th grade. So you would have been what? I think you're 7 years younger than me.
93, I would have been 8 or 9.
Okay. So you're right in the demographic for this show. What did you, I'm assuming you watched it when it was contemporary. What did you think of it as a kid? Did the jokes always land for you? What was your favorite part about it?
Yes, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Freakazoid, the entire Steven Spielberg golden renaissance of TV animation. I watched it all. I remember coming home from school, throwing my backpack in the middle of the living room floor, spilling papers, and of course Mom and Dad had to clean those up because I wasn't about to be distracted, and turning on TV and watching cartoons and just, oh my God, absolutely loving everything with Animaniacs. I remember my parents loving it to the point that when we found out that they were going to take it off of Fox Kids and they were going to put it on another station that at the time we didn't have because nobody knew what the WB station was. Good God, I'm old. My mother actually would tape episodes of Animaniacs so we could make sure that we had them on record. Yes, VHS tapes. Sweet Jesus. Oh my God. I don't want to be this old. But yeah, oh my God, I had all of the episodes on DVD. I ended up giving those to my best friend who has 3 little boys. When they put it on Hulu, I could watch it, and they didn't have it. And they wanted to introduce Animaniacs to their kids, so I gave them the complete box set as a gift. To which they called me a few days later and said, "Our kids will not stop singing the monkey song. What have you done to us?"
I don't know what to say. The monkeys won't do. For a nickel, I'll give you a clue.
Oh, damn it. I was going to do the reprise. This is what happens when we don't rehearse.
This is true. I didn't know your eyes were blue. Sorry.
The writer slipped. We have no scripts. Why bother to rehearse?
That's right. We have pay-for-play contracts. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, no, Animaniacs has always been a humongous part of my life. Even though I will admit that there are some jokes that I didn't quite get, I will play ignorant, as I, again, would have been about 8, 9, maybe 10 when the episode came out. I didn't get the fingerprints joke until much later.
When Wacko would do a sexual innuendo and say, good night, everybody, did you understand why? Or, was it...
Yeah, no, that part I got.
Okay.
I do love that there are several channels that have videos of all the Animaniacs jokes that went right over our heads, and every single list ends with the fingerprints joke.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with Tom Ruger, and they were like, "Yeah, we're just as stunned as you guys. We don't know how that got past censors."
I think my favorite one, that and it's my favorite because it's stuck with me all these years. But something about like, I am pianist. Good night, everybody.
Oh, it was Beethoven, world greatest pianist.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my favorite was the Wacko. Can you conjugate? Who, me? I never even kissed a girl.
I take umbrage with what you're doing. Well, you can take our bridge, but that's all I've got.
I'll give me the bird. We'd love to, really, but the Fox censors won't allow it.
Yeah, I was in 10th, 11th grade when this came out, and I watched it when it was fresh, but years later, when Pinky and the Brain got their own spin-off series, and you can go back in the archives, Alexis and I actually did a TV party for the first volume of the box set of Pinky and the Brain.
That was one of the first shows you had me on.
Yep. I remember a friend of mine from college and I would sit in his basement, and we were working on papers, and we would take timeouts and watch Pinky and the Brain. And, me and this particular friend have definitely had our ups and downs, but my favorite memories of us are, again, we're in college and we're not stoned, but we are laughing hysterically, like tears, breathlessness, turning blue at Pinky and the Brain, specifically the Brain Acres with Maurice the sheep herding carrot. And
oh my God, I love that one.
We ate lots of pudding. Laughing hysterically at that, and Brainy the Pooh. Like, to this day, I still giggle. Brainy the Pooh, stop.
Stop it.
Brainy the Pooh, why must you sing? There's an E at the end of home.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard at that.
I still die at the Pinky point of view episode where we see how Pinky interprets Brains. Like, now remember, Pinky, what you need to do is blah, 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 big word, blah, blah, real big word, blah, 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 blah.
Nice. The other fun memory I have of this is my father and I watching a Pinky and the Brain box set on whatever holiday this was at my this is my first marriage, and my wife at the time and her family had no idea what this was. They weren't into cartoons or fun or sanity, and and my father and I put this on.
You could say whatever you want.
That's it. And we were just dying laughing, and everybody in the room is like shrugging, like, we don't know why. What are you? You're both grown men. What's going on here? But that's the thing about Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain was, and they talk about this with the revival, was that it worked on two different levels. That there was slapstick physical humor for the kids, but then there was always this level of adult humor that came close to the line at times, but never crossed it, because you really couldn't. It's a children's show. But it's why it appealed to you who are 8 years old and me who's 16, 17 years old. And then later, in my 20s, and, I'm in college, and I'm still watching this stuff and still think it's funny. And now in my 40s, sharing it with my children and still thinking it's funny. Like, I watched the first couple episodes of the original Animaniacs way back when with my kids, and to this day, I still think the monkey song and Wacko sings the countries of the world, and in various episodes of Animaniacs is still really funny. Like one of my favorite characters on the show, which actually makes an appearance in the revival, is Chicken Boo. And those were some of my favorite bits on the show, where, just the play on words and how absurd it was. Animaniacs was one of those wide appeal shows that was really smartly written, and I think it gets overlooked because it's a kid's show, but it really is like a great piece of business.
It is, and it is horribly dated, but in the same way, it's almost this brilliant time capsule of the 90s. I mean, for God's sakes, for the first several seasons before they realized they had to change it, the opening lyrics in the theme song were, Wacko packs away the snacks while Bill Clinton plays the sax.
Right.
Kids today are not going to get that reference.
No. The other thing they had to change, because we live in modern times, you and I were talking before the show started about the world we live in, and how in the way things are changing in our treatment of minorities and such, and and how gender roles have changed and the expectations have changed. And so what do they do with this? The line was Dot is cute and Yakko yaks, and they can't do Dot is cute anymore because that's dismissive of women as physical sex objects. So now Dot has wit, because you see, even female cartoon characters are more than just pretty faces. Don't you understand?
Even though we get easily the most catchy song in the reboot from Dot about what if the world was cuter?
Yes.
Yeah, that song has been in my head since this show has debuted. And I'm not even like a big K-pop kawaii kind of fan, but it's like, my God, there's earworms and then there's this crap.
Before we focus solely on the revival, what was your favorite bits of the old show? Did you have like a favorite? Because the Animaniacs used to be an ensemble cartoon thing, so there might be a Warner Brothers, a Pinky and the Brain, and then like Chicken Boo, or Warner Brothers, Good Feathers, and Katie Kaboom. By the way, I also thought Katie Kaboom was hilarious, and I missed her in the revival. I still refer to Katie Kaboom when I'm talking about like people who like lose their temper.
It's so funny because I know a lot of people who didn't think Katie Kaboom was that funny, and I look at all of them and I go, "You've never lived with a hormonal teenage girl, have you?"
Yeah, I had a lot of female friends in high school. I knew a lot of Katie Kabooms.
See, I didn't quite get it totally when I was younger, but I will admit I was an incredibly hormonal, pissy teenage girl at one point. Mm-hmm. And my parents will confirm that. So watching Katie Kaboom now that I'm a little older, it's like, okay, yeah, I admit I did that. Oh God. I mean, I didn't turn into a giant rage monster physically, but the whole teen girl overreacting, send reinforcements, like, yep, waving the flag right here. I think my favorite, though, has always been Slappy Squirrel.
Yeah, I can see that.
I love the idea of this retired former Looney Tune great. Sherry Stoner brought so much personality to the character. I love how she played off of Skippy, who was, very cute, also very well written, and I think it was just kind of a great little how do the generational gaps get along and whatnot. Not to mention, creator Tom Ruger's one of his sons played Skippy, and the kid was great. Same kid who did Skippy also did Baby Plucky on Tiny Toons.
Water go down the hole.
Yeah, I want to flush it again.
I like Slappy Squirrel. I have been known to say that's comedy.
I loved Good Feathers, and I remember the Good Feathers were the ones my parents loved the most because they could not believe that they were putting jokes in like that they knew no kid was going to get. I did not get what the God Pigeon was. I did not get the whole, it's like, what do you mean by that? What are you saying I'm a tough bird? You mean I'm a piece of meat? What am I, just like an overcooked steak here to amuse you? Is that what you said? I didn't get that.
What 8-year-old has seen The Godfather or is it The Untouchables? Goodfellas. Goodfellas, yeah.
The ones with parents who clearly aren't paying attention.
Yeah, clearly.
kids, how old do you think they're going to be before you let them see Goodfellas?
I don't know if I'd ever show them the Goodfellas. I'd probably let them find that on their own. I'd be more inclined to show them Godfather 1 and 2 and pretend Godfather 3 doesn't exist. You know, just because those are good studies in film. But, like, you know, Goodfellas, meh. Like, I don't get me wrong, I like Goodfellas, but, you know, I don't have the urge to introduce my kids to mob pictures.
My mom tried showing me some scenes from Goodfellas when I was a little older, not 8 or 9. I think I must have been like 12. And even then, the amount of violence in that show when I was at that age freaked me out. I was just like, okay. I think after Joe Pesci got shot, I was like, okay, Mom, you can turn this off. I'm out of here. Bye!
Besides, my favorite mob movie is still Casino.
Naturally.
Yeah, I think, like I said, my favorite, obviously the Warner Brothers stuff was always very funny. Loved Pinky and the Brain. The rest of them, Chicken Boo always cracked me up. I adored Slappy Squirrel. The Good Feathers I could give or take. Like, you know, like, it was a lot of the same jokes over and over again. I talked about Katie Kaboom. I had no use for the hippos. Like, I didn't get the jokes. I didn't think it was funny.
Okay, so slight spoiler here, but there is an episode in the reboot where they actually do bring up who they say was the most hated character on the show, and we'll talk about that. I actually posted on, I've mentioned on past shows that I frequent animation research boards, and I posted on there, I said, okay, guys, I just want to know before I record my show here, which is your least favorite Animaniacs character? And the two that got the most votes were Hip Hippos and Mindy and Buttons.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I was about to say, like, Mindy and Buttons, I always thought, you know, I didn't actively hate them, but I didn't think it was funny most of the time. I thought it was a lot of the same tired joke.
It killed me because it had really good slapstick. Frank Welker doing the voice of Buttons the dog and just conveying all of the emotions, because Buttons is the only I think, pet or the only animal on the show who wasn't anthropomorphic. You know, Frank Welker, you are the voice acting god. But it always ended with Buttons getting yelled at and called a bad dog. And yeah, everyone who said that they'd hated Mindy and Buttons, I said, why? And they all said the same thing. I'm too much of an animal lover. You know, the slapstick was great, but it got ruined every time you knew it was going to end with Buttons, you know, getting scolded and crying. That's not funny.
Right.
And yeah, the hippos, no one liked. And I remember actually, my ex-fiance and I watching Animaniacs, and even we agreed that we hated hip hippos. And like, if I wanted to see this kind of crap, I'd hang out with my parents' friends.
Who am I missing? Was that everybody?
Rita and Runt.
Okay, I'm confusing Rita and Runt with Mindy and Buttons.
Rita and Runt were the singing cat with the dog looking for a home. Mindy and Buttons were the little girl who would always get into trouble, and her family dog who would try to save her.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, Mindy and... Okay, so everything I said about Mindy and Buttons, I meant for Rita and Runt. But Mindy and Buttons also was the same gag over and over again, and I was like, eh.
Well, you know, nearly every character on the show, it was the same gag over and over. You said you love Chicken Boo and Katie Kaboom. That was the same gag over and over again.
But those gags were funny.
Okay. Sorry, this was something that was brought up before. It's like when you can't say this segment sucked because it was the same joke over and over again when another segment has that same formula. You got to say, why does the formula work for these guys? Why does it not work for these guys?
Here's the thing. The Chicken Boo stuff, I always found... they got to the gag creatively in different ways. Like, you always... there were certain pillars of a Chicken Boo bit. You knew Chicken Boo was going to get discovered. You knew somebody was going to be like, he's a giant chicken. And then the rabble would turn on them. How you got there was what was funny. So it wasn't the reveal, and it wasn't the he's a giant chicken necessarily that was always funny, though that punchline is usually what got the laugh. It was all the context around it. And I always found the Chicken Boo stuff, the other thing is, I find anything with chickens to be funny. When we decorated our house, I insisted our kitchen had to have like a chicken and rooster decor.
Somebody say country dish towels.
Yep. My wife has hated me for this ever since, even though she went along with it, and she keeps talking about wanting to redo the kitchen because she's tired of the chickens and the roosters. But I think just because my odd sense of humor. Back when I was doing a political talk show, we used to have an entire segment dedicated to poultry news. So this may just be a thing with me. But
all these years recording shows with you, and I'm still learning stuff about you. This has never come up before.
Yeah, I've never felt the need to bring up the report, but which is what it was called.
Oh my God, I needed that today. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I mean, we can debate the merits of comedy at another time. Just suffice it to say, that was where I landed. There was some stuff with Animaniacs where, after the first couple of times I saw it, I didn't feel like the segments were strong, and I would get kind of bored by it. This is going to be a reoccurring theme. And then there were other stuff that would make me cry with laughter. Pinky and the Brain, even though it's a lot of the same gags and whatever else in the same setups, I always thought was very creatively done. And those characters themselves, whatever situation you put them in, always tended to be very smartly written and funny. I can't say that about Mindy and Buttons or Rita and Runt.
Yeah, Rita and Runt we didn't get a lot of because, unfortunately, this may sound weird, but that was the most expensive segment for them to animate. Mm-hmm. Because the voice of Rita was Bernadette Peters, Broadway legend, and they had to fly her back and forth from New York to LA to record. That's why the Rita and Run shorts are the fewest amount, because they could not afford to keep her on staff. I mean,
right.
You're going to get Bernadette Peters to sing. You are going to cough up a lot of money for her voice.
All right, so let's talk about the 2020 revival. It's the return of Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, which they're referred to as the Warner Brothers and the Warner Sisters, and my daughter could not let this go. Like, the entire time we were binging this, all she kept saying was, why can't they just call them Warner Family? Because the studio is called Warner Brothers, but there's a girl in the group, so she has to be the Warner sister because it's a play off the studio.
Exactly.
Right. But why can't they just call them the Warner Family? Why do they have to separate? I'm like, fuck it, Christ, Lily. Just it's the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister. Let it go. And after the 8th or 10th time she brought it up, I just stopped, arguing with her.
This is
Kids.
the future assistant training, folks.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, it's the return of the Warner Brothers, Yakko, Wacko, and their sister Dot, who are voiced respectively by the original voice actors Rob Paulson, Jess Harnell, and Tress MacNeille, and Pinky and the Brain, voiced by their respective original voice actors Paulson and the great Maurice LaMarche. This has been ordered for 2 seasons. I said before, the first season debuted November 20th, and all the episodes dropped at once. And then the next season will be sometime in 2021, God willing. They did
have to lift one episode temporarily when it turns out that a 555 number actually had been co-opted for a sex hotline, and nobody realized that before it went to air. So they had to take that episode off and remove the few frames where the phone number appears.
Yeah, well, I watched it this past weekend, so I think I got all 10. Or 13, it was 13. As with the original 1993 series, the show focuses on the adventures of the Warner Brothers, or the Warner family, however you like it. 3 inseparable, irascible siblings as they engage in further adventures after being absent from television for 22 years. Bringing with them the usual wackiness and mayhem they create while adapting to the changes in the life of 21st century. Most episodes are composed of 3 shorts, 2 following the adventures of the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister Dot, and a 3rd featuring the fan-favorite characters Pinky and the Brain, 2 lab mice, one of whom is intelligent and who wants to take over the world, while the other is a dim-witted and clumsy oaf, often messing up his friends' plans. All right, so that's the setup there. First of all, just cutting the fat and limiting this to the Warner Brothers and Pinky and the Brain, what did you think of that decision? Did you miss the old characters, or did you kind of like this laser focused on those main ones?
At first, I thought they were just playing to their strengths, but watching it now, I've realized cutting out all of the other supporting characters actually has been very detrimental. The Warner Brothers and the Warner sister have always been, the strength of one of the biggest strengths of the shows, and we all love their shorts. But at the same time, it's very rare that they had to carry an entire episode by themselves. And even when they did, there was a few more supporting characters that we had. Dr. Scratch and Sniff, Hello Nurse, the CEO Thaddeus Plotz, Ralph the Guard. Ralph the Guard is back, actually, and voiced by his returning voice actor, who I previously mentioned, Frank Welker. So I just thought it was weird, though, that they cut so many of the characters out. There is a bit of controversy with this series that the original staff and writers were not only not asked to return to the show, they found out about it online. They weren't even given a phone call or an email saying, hey, we love what you did, but we're not going to need you. I mentioned this before the show, that I actually got to talk a little bit with Tom Ruger. He is the creator of the original show. He worked on Freakazoid, Tiny Toons, and all of the Amblin Entertainment shows. Brilliant man. And, yeah, he was really not happy with how they found out. He didn't even... Basically, he found out they were doing the reboot through a news article, and he found out he was not being asked to return on a news article. And some people are saying that it was because of a money issue. Some are saying it's because they wanted new writers and in a new direction. Maybe it's column A, column B. I don't know. All I know is that when you have a producer and head writer who previously worked on Family Guy, you really don't get the bragging rights you think you deserve.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a great segue into one of the issues I have with this revival. So the kids' cartoon was not shy about poking fun at political figures, which is fine, but it didn't have an agenda. It kind of took the approach of, these are the people in the world right now. This is who we're going to make fun of. And the revival has a few cases where, and I was reading about this was done purposely, where they went specifically for like political satire, almost to the point where I thought the writing had an agenda to it. And I'm like, who is this supposed to be for? Like, something that Rob and I talk about, Robert Winfrey and I talk about all the time when we do Damn You Hollywood, and you've been on the show enough so you've heard us do it, where we just feel like certain things are done so that you'll get the critical kudos and then be invited to the big parties. And it just, like, and it took away, I think, from me, like, my kids didn't get it, and it just annoyed me. And it's not because I have a particular political slant. I do. But I can laugh at myself, and I can laugh at my values when they're properly poked fun at. So it's not a matter of, well, you made fun of, you made fun of Trump, and I got angry. It's not as simple as all that. It's more of, this feels bitter and angry, and not in the spirit of the 93 Animaniacs, which was more of a, like a stand-up comedian kind of looking around going, Lewis Black once said that the way he prepares new bits is he gets up in the morning and he reads the paper, and the thing that makes him yell, what the fuck, is what he and then he takes that what the fuck and he tries to make a bit out of it and be funny. And that's Lewis Black. And I felt like that's the approach to Animaniacs when they were doing contemporaneous humor. This feels editorialized at times, and, like I said, bitter and almost angry.
Yeah, some of the episodes where they tried that, I don't even really get what they were going for. We have the episode Bun Control, which has a gentleman invade the Warner's lot and give everyone adorable pet bunnies. And he talks about how he's standing up for everyone's constitutional right to bear buns. and then the bunnies start multiplying, and they can't really do anything about it. And then
get it? It's about guns. Get it? Do you get it, Alexis? Buns, guns. They don't like guns. Get it? They don't. They think there should be gun control. Get it? Do you get it?
Yeah, but I was trying to figure out, so how do we go from a very, very thinly veiled allegory about gun control to what I think was a parody of The Trouble with Tribbles to an anime scene?
Yeah, that's kind of what I got from it. Like, I understand what they're trying to say is that we have too many guns in this country, and because we allow people to have guns, and we... and it's a fight to put any kind of limitations on gun ownership. You have a multiplicity of guns available, and this is a reaction to the amount of gun deaths over the past, let's go with 10 years, whether it be in schools or inner cities or what have you. For a while there, we had like a rash of school shootings, and that's what, this seems to have died down, or at least they're not reporting on it as much.
Well, don't forget, they wrote this in 2018, as we found out in the Ketchup song, which I'll admit that was actually pretty funny. It's like, so how are we supposed to talk about the last 2 years? Make stuff up? Sure thing.
The Family Guy did a very similar thing. They were like, I can't believe President Trump hung himself. And then, like, at the bottom there was, it says, we wrote this in 2018, were we right?
Again, Wesley Wild, new executive producer on the show, and one of the staff writers, was one of the main writers for Family Guy.
But you can get away with that with Family Guy. That's an adult cartoon for adults. There's a bit where Peter lays on a teen student who's prone and unconscious, and he of course molests her, and then looks up and goes, "What are you guys looking at? It's a cartoon."
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it's like, get over it. It's cartoon.
Yeah. Which is funny because it's a cartoon and it's for adults. But as I've learned, because when when I forget that I have kids in the room and Family Guy is on, this isn't meant for children. And it can take a left turn very easily. If you're doing Animaniacs, you should not be doing, and you should not even approach doing, Family Guy style humor.
Like I said, you're right. Some of this felt incredibly ham-fisted. And I think part of the other problem is that, we were going back to what we were discussing earlier, that they cut all the other characters except for Pinky and the Brain and the Warners. You now require these main characters to shoulder a lot. And it feels like they're being stretched a little thin. Even to the fact that we have a new CEO. They didn't bring back Thaddeus Plotz. We have a new CEO character who I know absolutely nothing about except she's a minority and she's a woman. I don't even remember her name. Thaddeus Plotz, whether you love him or hate him, was a recurring character on the show, and he had an established character. You knew exactly what kind of a person he was and what he brought to the table. This new CEO, I got nothing.
100% agree. I got bored about midway through this. And I think, like, at one point I walked out of the room to go do something. I left my kids in there to watch, and I was like, I got to watch this because we're going to talk about it, and I'm interested to see what else they do. But I think even at 22 minutes, 13 episodes of the same 5 characters, basically, with one or two exceptions, I needed more variety, and I don't think it definitely lended itself to seeing the holes in the presentation. Like, you don't realize until you watch this how much better the 93 version is because they broke it up. So I could tolerate a Mindy and Buttons or a Rita and Runt because because it was 5 minutes out of a 22-minute program with commercials and other stuff going on. It was just frenetic enough to keep me interested, even if I didn't particularly like the segment, because it was over fast enough that they move on to something else. Whereas here, the segments are longer. There's more of them. And like I said, by about the 7th or 8th episode, I was like, I cannot wait for this to be over. And it's not, and I don't want people to come away with, oh, he hated it. Like, no, I laughed at a lot of stuff, but I just feel like there wasn't enough variety to keep it interesting. I think they made an error in doing away with those characters or not creating new ones.
Yeah, I talked about the show on another podcast not too long ago with author Mark Arnold, and we discussed it. And I'll go ahead and tell you this. Since then, I've rewatched a handful of episodes a couple times. There's some segments that have genuinely made me laugh, and there's some parts that I like, and there's a few. I like the Swedish athlete with the horrible Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. He has the makings for a good recurring villain. But after a while, I remember thinking to myself, can I just go put on the 93 Animaniacs? No, you have to keep watching this, because if you start watching the 93 Animaniacs, you're going to forget all about the 2020 Animaniacs, and you're not going to be able to discuss anything of any great importance on the show. So, frankly, I am glad to be recording the show tonight so I can watch the 93 Animaniacs again, and I can go enjoy the other characters that I love. And furthermore, I can also enjoy the animation that I love. Why is this that it seems so many shows right now? We talked about this briefly when we did the Looney Tunes reboot that came out on HBO Max, where some of the main characters, it's clear that they were sticking to a very strict design front, but all of the other supporting characters, it's obvious that the animators didn't give a fuck about what they looked like.
Okay. You're going to have to explain that a little bit more, because I didn't pick up on it.
I felt that so many of the non-supporting character or just human characters or whatever were ugly. And I thought the animation was ugly. You have the bit with Seth Meyers, and they have a scene where he turns to the camera and gives a creepy as hell smile. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I enjoy Seth Meyers, and I never noticed, yeah, I guess he does have kind of a creepy smile, but why did you have to focus on it? And then, yeah, we have the Bun Control episode with Dwayne, and with those weird teeth. And you got the scene with Odysseus, and we had the ancient Greece stuff. And again, I love the idea of the Warners as the Greek gods. That's hilarious. But then you have Odysseus, who is not only hideous to look at, but there are several scenes where you can see his nether regions sinking below his skirt.
Really?
Why am I always the one who notices that shit?
Okay.
You know, and I just felt like so many of the characters, the animation, they didn't care. There's an episode where Pinky and the Brain are trying to get a meteorite, which this toddler has apparently eaten. And there's several scenes where they're trying to talk with the toddler, and every time they cut back to him, his face is a different shape. His eyes are a different shape. There's no structure to
There's
what
no
he's trying.
consistency.
Yeah, there is no consistency to these side characters. And, I get that, we don't have to have these incredibly strict layouts and designs, but it just looks haphazard, lazy, and rushed when you let animators do this. We talked about this briefly with with the Looney Tunes reboot, how so many of the characters, it looked like they had been channeled from John Kay's, Spumco animation, and how just so many, it was like, it's clear that they really just wanted to draw whatever the heck they wanted to draw.
So the first episode is 4 bits. There's the Jurassic Lark, which was the teaser for the announcement that the Animaniacs would be debuting on November 20th, which was cute. And then the reintroduction of the characters, which is Suspended Animation Part 1. The bit I liked about this was when they went to go see the CEO, and she introduces them to the tablet, and Yakko just swallows it, and then they sing they sing about all the things that have happened between '93 and now, or whenever that went off the air. Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, I did enjoy the music in the reboot. It's not going to hold a candle to the previous song or to the songs of the '93 version, but that's because Amblin Animation had a composer named Richard Stone, otherwise known as the Great Stonini. That's the man who wrote the theme songs for Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Tasmania, Freakazoid, Pinky and the Brain. He wrote all those earworms.
All right, you keep doing that. You keep not mentioning Hysteria, and Hysteria always cracked me up, and I can't find it anywhere. It's not streaming anywhere. Why Why don't you talk more about Hysteria?
Because Hysteria was moved to Saturday mornings, and by the time it was on the air, I never got up on Saturday mornings. Hysteria did not get the after-school treatment, so I didn't get a chance to get into it.
Ah. Damn it. Why is Hysteria not available anywhere? Like, what is holding that up?
I have no idea, and you're not alone. There are several boards on the animation research pages on Facebook dedicated to what the hell is going on with Hysteria.
Like they've buried it somewhere. Like I can't find information on it. Like it's like Warner Brothers' dirty little secret. Anyway, back to Animaniacs.
Yeah, but no, like saying, so yeah, they're not going to have the same level of songs as when they had the great Stonini, who sadly passed away a while back. But I thought most of the songs, there's a couple we'll get to that I thought were lacking, but I did enjoy the Ketchup song, and I did enjoy the Reboot song. Yep.
The Pinky and the Brain bit, Brain tries to create a meme in order to take over the world. You know, Pinky and the Brain is always pretty funny. Some are more funnier than the others. Nothing that rose to the level of Maurice the Sheep-herding Carrot or Brainy the Pooh, but few things in life, rise to that level of humor.
Of course.
So I think, it got off to a fairly strong start. Episode 2, we have Warner's Unbound, How to Brain Your Dragon, and Suffragette City. So this is the one with Odysseus, which we talked about, which I also thought was funny.
And surprisingly, this is the only episode with the blatant shove-it-in-your-face Trump parody. Yeah. I'm just going to say, I think they restrained themselves on that.
Yeah, it only gets worse from here. But this one I thought, like, this one definitely bordered on contemporaneous humor. And, like, if they do it once, I can forgive it. When it became repetitious and it became, like I said, angrier and bitterer as time went on. The Pinky and the Brain bit, they try to take over a castle by... The funniest thing about this one isn't Pinky and the Brain, it's the dragon who is trying to... he was an actor, and he's trying to get a part. And so Brain slays, quote-unquote, the dragon so that they'll make him king. And the dragon keeps extending out his death and just blows the whole thing, which that I thought was funny.
That was pretty good.
And then we get a song. What'd you think of the song? This is about the... They went in a different direction, because I actually thought Dot was going to sing about how women got the right to vote. And then it takes this weird left turn where it's about cartoons voting. It's like, well, cartoons aren't real. I don't get why this is supposed to be funny.
Yeah, what I mentioned before, how there were some songs I didn't really get. This is one of them. Animaniacs, the 93 version, had some incredibly great educational songs. I refuse to believe that there are kids who grow up with that who don't think about the nations of the world or Wacko's America or the President's song or anything, and didn't have some of that help them on their history exams.
For sure.
Oh, totally. So when I saw, and when they started this, I'm like, she's going to sing about the suffragette movement. That's great. All right, awesome. And it starts, and then, all of a sudden it goes into a thing about protesting and about how cartoons need the right to vote, and then they have a jab at Lunatics Unleashed, which is always welcome. But so much of it felt so random, and I'm just sort of going, you had a great idea with singing about the suffragette movement. Why did you suddenly decide to sing about something else? Yeah,
that was an odd left turn for me, and boy, we're going to see a lot of that. Episode 3, we talked about before, we have the Arnold Schwarzenegger look-alike, and they're competing. It's him versus the Warners in various Olympic Games, and, it's the typical sort of Looney Tunes Animaniac setup. Villain who, over-the-top villain, and wacky characters who can get away with doing all kinds of nonsense to the person, no matter what he does. And this is basically, he's doing Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam to their, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. I mean, like, I laughed at the physical humor. So did my kids, but it was like, this isn't exactly biting satire here. This is just slapstick.
But some of that is welcome. Not
Sure.
to mention, it's cool getting to hear John Bailey, the guy who does the Honest Trailers show on YouTube, actually get to do a voice on this. That was pretty neat.
I love the next Pinky in the Brain. This is Pinko in the Brain. In 1953, Brain disguises himself as a politician and attempts to blackmail all the others to ensure he's the only one remaining. So this was a poke at the Red Scare. I actually cracked up at this. I thought this was well done.
I thought it was pretty funny. I hate to say it, the first 2 times that I watched this, I think after a while I started fast-forwarding through the theme songs.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, because even as much as I love the Pinky the Brain theme song, after a while it's just like, okay, next. And I think the first 2 times I watched this episode, I actually fast-forwarded too fast, and I missed the part where they said this took place in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So there were multiple times I was just like, wait, when is this taking place?
I don't remember the next bit. Dot dramatically teaches a math lesson involving apples and a girl named Nancy. Yeah. It starts like a thing in Masterpiece Theater with a woman who is running with apples and trying to feed her family, and it's weird. Interesting artistic style, because they do a different style than they do with the rest of the cartoon, but yeah, it's that. All right, so we talked about bun control. I think we've talked about that enough. Brain invents a robot son who then turns on him. You know, it's funny that you said that the showrunner on this came from Family Guy, because I swear to God, some of these plots were stolen directly from Family Guy.
Yeah.
This one, Stewie, after getting into an argument with Brian, builds himself a robot friend, and the robot friend turns on Stewie and builds other robot friends, and eventually they have to destroy the robots, which leads to a really funny gag at the end where you have these three robot little boys strewn about, prone and unconscious on a stained mattress, and Herbert the pervert walks by and goes, "Somebody has to be punking me."
Yeah, so it's like, how is this not a trap?
Right, that was not a trap. Same deal here. So Brain invents a robot son, and of course the thing becomes self-aware, and it grows and evolves, and eventually it realizes it doesn't need the brain.
That was actually also done on an episode of Dexter's Lab. In fact, this is a very common trope that, frankly, I'm shocked it took them this long to do with Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, you know what's funny about that?
I'm sorry?
You know what's funny about that? I'm sorry, you pinged this memory for me. My daughter actually got really anxious watching that episode. She was like, is that really going to happen? Are the computers eventually going to take over? And I'm like, Lily, we've only had that anxiety since the 50s. I said, they made an entire movie franchise about the possibility of computers turning on us and launching missiles into the air. So now I have to show my kids Terminator 2.
You better show the director's cut.
Sure.
What? That's the better version. Everyone agrees.
Of Terminator 2?
Yeah.
Okay, if you insist.
I swear to God, get the director's cut. I swear to God, you will appreciate it more. It's the one that has the among the extra scenes, it also has the scene with Michael Biehn showing up in Sarah's dream while she's in the institute.
Okay, I can't. They're too young for me to show them the first Terminator, but I think at their ages currently, I can get away with Terminator 2.
You know what? I saw Terminator 2 before I ever saw the first one. Just
there you go.
Explain the basic backstory of what happened with Sarah Connor and move on.
Okay, and in the third segment, the Warners debut a new app. Refresh my memory, what was Bloop?
Millisecond videos.
Oh, that's right. You know, one of my favorite movies of recent history is Jon Favreau's Chef, which is where I learned about Vines, which I did not know about until I watched that movie. And Vines are apparently 6-second videos, which, again, Family Guy did a bit on, where it was the 6-second talk show.
Are we seriously going into a part of our lives now where it's no longer Simpsons did it, now it's Family Guy did it?
Well, and it's the same guy working on both shows, yes.
We are seeing a new evolution of entertainment, folks.
Episode 5, Good Warner Hunting, No Brainer, and Ralph Cam. The Warners are stalked by a deranged hunter obsessed with... Oh, my God. This might be my favorite episode because given what's in it. First of all, I loved the hunter going after... because he because he's had all the... We find out what happened to all the previous Animaniacs characters that we've already been discussing, and they've all been mounted and stuffed and mounted by this hunter, and he's missing the Animaniacs, and it turns out to be Chicken Boo. I cried laughing. I was so happy to see the return of Chicken Boo in that fashion.
I thought that was great when they revealed the twist. My mouth actually hung open. I was like, wait, what did he just say? This was the one where I questioned everyone about what their least favorite one was, because we have a moment where Yakos says to the hunter, Boo in disguise, that Chicken Boo was the least favorite character on Animaniacs, and that the reboot contract actually said that Chicken Boo will never, ever, 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 ever appear.
What was the reaction you got?
Like I said, Hip Hippos and Mindy and Buttons were the least favorite. Katie Kaboom was a runner-up for least favorite. There was a couple of people who said just like, there was at least one or two people who said Pinky and the Brain were their least favorite, to which I said, screw you.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, like I said, I actually got Tom Ruger on there to say what his least favorite characters were, which was so surreal. Hang on a second, let me see if I can find his quote here. Where was it? Damn you, Facebook, why can't you make it easier to find through this kind of stuff?
So I'm thinking about when I put this up later, and I think I'm going to put in there that we also started a new drinking game, which is every time we reference Family Guy in relation to the Animaniacs, take a drink.
You really want us to fall on our asses that fast?
Let's see how many people we can cause alcohol poisoning.
Okay, second, I found the page. Where was that quote? Okay, yeah, Mr. Ruger here, he said his least favorite were the Hip Hippos. He felt that while they worked well in the Monkey song, they never took off. He liked Chicken Boo, and he thought Katie Kaboom worked in a few of her cartoons, and he loved the combo episode of Katie Kaboom and Chicken Boo.
Chicken Boo, what's the matter with you? You don't act like the other chickens do.
You wear a disguise to look like human guys, but you're not a man, you're a Chicken Boo.
He's a giant chicken! Alright, Pinky and the Brain break into the NSA to retrieve a phone message containing their plan to take over the world after Brain develops short-term amnesia and cannot remember it. I thought this was a fun episode. I enjoyed this.
I thought it was okay, but I felt that the punchline was a little lacking. And, of course, very funny jab with Edward Snowden. That did make me chuckle.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was just kind of like, so you broke into the NSA, you have access to all of this, and you're just upset because it turns out that the previous plan you were thinking isn't going to work. You still have NSA access. How are you not taking over the world with NSA access?
My only issue with this was, how long has it been since Snowden was a conscious part of cultural media, and what kid is supposed to get that joke?
Very true. This was clearly an episode aimed at older folks. I don't even remember what year the Snowden controversy hit.
Yeah, I feel like this was a dated episode.
Let's face it, all the crap that's happened in 2020 has made everything that's happened in the last decade look minuscule by proportion.
And then finally, Ralph Cam, which I was dying laughing at.
Me too. This was one of my favorites. This is how you take a new idea and you make it work. I loved this.
So, for those who may not have, I don't know why you'd be listening to this, but if you're listening just because you like Alexis, you like when we talk, but you haven't seen Animaniacs yet, Ralph Cam is him asleep in the guard booth with a security camera, and so it's silent, which is what makes it funny. And you see like a 24-hour period as he's sleeping through, various Animaniacs antics, and like at one point I think they're dragging a coffin and Dracula comes out of it. I swear to God, I was in tears watching this. Like I don't think I laughed harder than I laughed at Ralph Cam.
I died laughing when Wacko defeated the vampire with frickin' kimchi. My husband loves kimchi, and I don't get why any human being would want to ingest that crap.
Yeah, this was good stuff. All right. Next one, your favorite episode, apparently, because you've asked me about it now a few times. We have The Cutening, we have Close Encounters of the Worst Kind, and Equal Time. So the first one is a song where Dot gains the ability to make everything cute, and this is the Kawaii. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yep.
This is the Kawaii episode. My daughter thought this was great. This would definitely appeal to her demographic. I'm 44. This is sort of lost on me.
That's, like I said, that song is such a freaking earworm. Oh my God. But yeah, I just love the lyrics. What is it? What if you could hug a pitch without contracting Lyme disease? What if all chairs were beanbags made out of soft, delicious... oh my God, I'm getting the lyrics wrong. But yeah, I just kind of died when Wacko just finally sang, what was it? It's like, there's a gumdrop wrapped in rainbows where there used to be my brain. I love that line.
The Pinky and the Brain episode is a classic Pinky and the Brain thing, where Brain reaches out to a third party to help him take over the world, and that third party has zero interest. It's a gag they've done before, but I thought they really had fun with this. So in this one, they bring aliens to the world, and the aliens just want to go to the mall and do karaoke and whatever else. So I was amused by that.
That was a pretty funny one.
And then Equal Time, this was one of the Warners present various ads for third-party candidates. Like, I feel like this was, again, an agenda-driven bit where, like, they're trying to make fun of the political process and the two-party system and all that. And I'm like, again, who do you think this is for? The adults watching this are not watching the Animaniacs for the Daily Show style political satire. If you do a little bit of that and it's witty enough, you'll get a laugh despite it. But nobody's watching the Animaniacs be like, come on, attack Trump. No, that's what you watch the Daily Show for. That's what you watch, other shows that are out there, certain stand-up comedians. Like, no one's watching a kid's cartoon for this. Like, this kind of annoyed me.
You actually got to wonder if a couple of the writers realized that their show had become even more dated when Trump lost.
Well, again, they wrote this before COVID, and had COVID not happened, I don't think he would have lost. So I think I think that's what people were betting on. Not that that's what they wanted, but that's what they figured was going to happen.
But yeah, I mean, we have an episode where they go to Russia and they say, "How do we have a flight back to America so quickly?" Oh, apparently this plane goes from Washington to the Moscow every day, and it's freaking Air Force One.
Yeah,
guess what? That joke is already fucking dated.
Yeah, that was one of the ones where I kind of just rolled my eyes and was like, enough already. Go for a walk. That's my new thing. If you listen to me and Chris Sheehan talk about the Jeffrey Dahmer book and Hart Fisher, I was just like, Hart Fisher just needs to go for a walk. That's my new thing now. When people are self-righteously aggravated and feel the need to shout at the clouds, my new thing is just tell people go for a walk.
Agreed. Again, the election coverage thing was kind of funny on a few parts. I love that they tried to bring back Wacko's Nations of the World song. Yeah. And even it's like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Indianapolis, Indiana. Oh, it's still boring. That was funny. And then we get a weird thing about Russia installing a drone as a potential candidate. And yeah, I'm with you. It's like the kids don't really need to know this, and we'll get to the more ham-fisted Russian allegory in the later episode, because it's going to come up.
Yep. All right, episode 7. Oh, we got the Murder on the Orient Express bit. The Warners attempt to solve a dog napping on a train, which was, it was fine. In 18th century France, the Warners accidentally start the French Revolution. It was fun to watch this one with my daughter because she actually knows who Marie Antoinette is, has read about her. And she was like, what the fuck? But like how a 9-year-old would say it. So...
The Murder on the Orient Express kills me because there's a previous Animaniacs episode from the 93 series, which was a parody of Death on the Nile. So Hercule Yaco was introduced in previous. So I was thrilled that they brought this character back. And it has, I'm just going to say my absolute favorite joke of the entire thing, when Wacko says he went off to take a bath and everyone's like, so no one saw you. And he goes, what are you talking about? Everyone saw me. And he's bathing in the punch bowl and singing, which is adorable enough. And then somebody behind him goes, do you mind? This punchline is taking far too long. And I died. I was like, that is the smartest thing you people have come up with so far, and I love it.
And then finally, I really hated white people rapping in the 90s. And yes, there have been some great white rappers since then, Grammy Award winning, rappers. I've sort of gotten over it. I still don't like it when it's lame, but and who would? But like in the 90s, it really irritated me when the occasion that they would do it on Animaniacs or some other show. I don't think I could roll my eyes any harder. So this bit where they do, where they have a rapper come out and then Yakko does like a battle with him, but he's rapping from like the perspective of Shakespeare. I'm like, nope, this still sucks. This is still lame. I still don't like it.
Yeah, Rob Paulson, you are one of the greatest voice actors of all time, and we're so happy to have you back, especially after your battle with throat cancer. It's wondrous to hear you voice Yakko and Pinky again. Please don't ever do this kind of a segment ever again.
Yeah. Episode 8, Who Donut? This is the great mystery of who ate Wacko's donuts. This is funny. The punchline at the end is that he ate it while sleepwalking. Okay.
And that apparently we are making fun of hipster donuts.
Yeah, this was another one where, not to piss off Ronnie Adams, but it was fine. I laughed in certain places. I was mildly amused. It was like they can't all be zingers. They have the mouse.
I'm sorry, the whole millennial artisanal thing. Again, previously on Family Guy.
Take a drink.
But yeah, it kind of made me laugh a little bit, but even that joke started to go out. It was kind of funny when they're talking in the beginning. It's like that there's biscuits and gravy flavored, maple bacon biscuits and gravy flavored donuts. I thought that was funny, but then when they get to the shop, he asked for sawdust flavored donuts. I'm going, you could have made this joke so much funnier, but you got lazy.
Yeah.
And I did kind of chuckle a little bit. It's like about the whole artisanal donuts. Like, this is it. It's the only donut shop that's open in an old brass factory, or in an old brass factory that is only open on Wednesdays when it rains. Like, yes, we get it. Millennials are odd. We know.
The Pinky and the Brain segment. The brain runs for president and genetically alters another mouse so that it's like the perfect first lady. And haha, 2020. The first lady becomes more popular and runs for president herself. Ha-ha. Get it? Get it? Women can do anything. Get it? Do you understand? Women are equal to men. Get it? Get first lady. Hillary Clinton. We're still mad about this, that she didn't win. Get it? Get it? I'm done now.
I did like the catfishing joke.
The catfishing joke was funny.
Yes, it was. And I like the idea that this female mouse, Julia, may come back in later season as a reoccurring villain. Again, if they're going to make this work with only the Warners and Pinky and the Brain, we have to get more developed side characters to work with them. This show does not work when it's just those 5 characters.
So bring back Maurice the sheep-herding carrot.
Yeah, okay, fine. Bring back the carrot. I'm going to have to go watch that episode now after we're done with this.
That'll do, carrot. That'll do. That still makes me laugh. And then we get the odd non-Pinky and the Brain, non-Warner Brothers short with Starbucks and Cindy, which is basically Elmira and whatever the cat's name was. Furball, yes.
You get the idea that someone on the writing staff decided just to place a microphone next to their child and have them and just record what they did during the day and then decided to animate around it?
Maybe. But that's all this was. This was an Elmira and Furball bit. If for those of you listening who didn't watch Tiny Toons, in which case, okay.
Yeah. In any case, what the hell is wrong with you?
You know, Elmira was the Elmer Fudd, was the kid version of Elmer Fudd, and she basically was, you know, like the abominable snowman from the old Bugs Bunny cartoon. You know, she another way to look at her is she's what's his name from Of Mice and Men. You know, tell me about the rabbits,
Lenny.
George. Lenny, yeah. Kind of like Lenny from Of Mice and Men, where she loves pets and she squeezes them and she squeezes them too hard and kills them. That was Elmira. And she had a cat that was the Sylvester, the baby Sylvester the cat version, which was Furball. And a lot of the Looney Tunes shorts were Elmira trying to murder Furball with love. And that's all this was. You have an alien who lands on Earth, and the girl takes it in as a pet, and the thing is trying to get to his ship to tell the other aliens to attack, and she's like putting them in tea parties and all this other crap, and I'm like, okay. I guess if you've never seen Elmira and Furball before, or Bugs Bunny and the Abominable Snowman, it's new to you, but nah.
Well, not to mention the slaps. Okay, the idea of an alien coming to destroy Earth, and it turns out they're way too small, is hilarious. This was actually done with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a very funny bit, and it's the idea of perspective, and I love it.
Okay,
but
hang on. You know who did the best job of that? Pinky and the Brain. When he animated the zucchinis, or the eggplants. He made monster eggplants, but he kept them at their size, and so they went to attack whoever, and they just stepped on them.
Will you go eat a carrot already?
That's from the same episode.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But, no, okay, here's the thing. Yeah, that idea is funny. There is some humor in that, but the show constantly focuses on Cindy and what she's talking about. And again, it's clear this is just a daughter, niece, whatever, of one of the show writers talking aimlessly about, I had a dream about a dinosaur and he was blue and he had one horn, and you can't focus on the slapstick humor of Starbucks the alien when they're focusing so much on the dialogue of this little girl. If they had just had her like put him in a dress and put her down for the tea party and then walk away, and then he tries to get outside, that would have been funny. But we keep hearing the girl talk, and it's not funny. You know, I'm sorry, I don't have kids, but hearing what is probably a 5, 6, maybe 7-year-old child talk about dinosaur dreams is not amusing.
Yeah. This is about where the show lost me after this episode. Because I'm looking at like 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and I was bored at this point. I just kind of wanted it to be over. I probably should have taken a break, and I'm pretty sure in episode 9 I left the room. So, because I barely remember any of these sketches. We have Here Comes Trouble. While performing a sketch, the Warner Brothers butt heads with a music conductor. Like, I vaguely remember it, and it's kind of the same Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd type of, setup, or Bugs Bunny and Villain of the Week setup, where, like the opera singer or the magician, for people who follow old Looney Tunes, that sort of thing. And
with a bit of Fantasia mixed in.
And for that matter, other Warner Brothers, other Animaniacs cartoons. It's the same setup. There's a guy, he's pestering the Animaniacs. They do all kinds of shit to him. It's the same as like the Olympic episode. That's not the issue. The Warners appear on a talk show and get on the host's nerves. I think I was looking at my phone during this because I kind of looked up. I was like, ugh. And I looked away again.
Yeah, because what kid doesn't want to hear some, witty repartee making fun of Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, what kid knows who Tucker Carlson is?
So you want to know how dated this is? Tucker Carlson doesn't even wear the bow ties anymore. He stopped wearing. They have their parody version wearing the bow ties. It's like, yeah, we all know Tucker Carlson used to wear bow ties. He stopped wearing those ages ago after Jon Stewart schooled him on it.
Yeah, I actually remember that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not a fan of Tucker. I'm really not a fan of Tucker Carlson. But even I'm just sitting there going, really, guys? I mean, there's a really hilarious classic 93 episode where they called Broadcast Nuisance, where they had Phil Hartman on voicing a very, very irritable news anchor, and you have a couple little jabs at Diane Sawyer and Wolf Blitzen. but the newscaster is kept blank. So it can be just sort of an anyone. And he's called Dan Anchorman. And it's hilarious to see, him and the Warners go up against one another. Parodying Tucker Carlson isn't funny. Yeah. Especially since, like I said, I don't like him, but I don't even get a lot of the jokes because I don't watch his show. It's like, oh, haha, the network is called Faux News. I get it. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Because Fox News is full of lies. Get it? Old people watch Fox News and they buy the lies. Get it? Sean Hannity. Get it?
Yes, we get it. But again, they have this whole scene where where they have this opening segment for Tuck's show with jets and red, white, and blue fireworks and American Eagle, and I'm starting going, okay, yeah, I get the ultra Republican, mega American pride thing, but I don't watch Tucker Carlson's show, so I don't know if this is parodying his show or if it's just parodying the alt-right Republican news network stigma. I don't get where the joke is aimed at.
Yeah. Again, to bring up the last source material on Hart Fisher, I don't begrudge anyone their editorial slants or effort when they're frustrated with the state of something, whether it be comic books, the news, politics, whatever. But maybe guide your efforts into a medium or a space where you can actually affect change and make sense. What the hell do you think is going to happen by pouring all of this anger and frustration and anxiety into a children's cartoon? Yes, parents are going to watch. I'm 44 and I watched it with a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. I get that the intent is to appeal to two different demographics, but you can still do that as the old show did without your agenda. And again, if you're this frustrated, we talked about Hart Fisher and how he did this book called Kill Image because he was frustrated with the comic book industry, and this was his sort of editorializing against it. And I'm like, who do you think this affects? And I say that again about Animaniacs. Like, yeah, a lot of people, I'm sure, watch this and everything else, but what do you think the average person was going to do? Like, see you making fun of Tucker Carlson going, oh, that's right, Republicans suck, and, charge the White House? Hey, come on, man. Know your medium.
Yeah, do you really think, I'm just going to say, do you really think it's funny to have kids ask, why are there no vending machines in the gun lobby?
All right, moving on. I don't remember this Pinky in the Brain one. Maybe you can fill it in here. Brain's future self arrives to aid him to take over the world. I don't remember this.
It's a weird, not very funny episode. Yeah, it's his future self, and he basically is trying to convince Brain to get rid of Pinky. We've seen this before in past episodes where Brain is trying to figure out whether or not things work with Pinky. And again, it's like there's a little bit of humor in it. There's a recurring gag about Pinky making this awesome no-bake cheesecake, and the future Brain is like, oh, thank God, there's, all food in the future is dust, so he just keeps, devouring the cheesecake. But we've had various jokes like this before, tons of animated segments where Brain has thought he'd be better off without Pinky, but it always ends with him realizing, no, he needs balance, he needs Pinky. Pinky is not the problem with taking over the world.
Right.
So, this is a repeat joke. And then we get the segment that is so surreal. Oh my God. I feel every time this segment gets brought up, I just feel like I need to go smoke a bowl to just try to understand it a little bit better. The incredible gnome in people's mouths.
Yep. I think I left the room or I was on my phone.
Writers, you're writing for Animaniacs, not Freakazoid. This was so bizarre. I just watched it go. It's like, it's Bender having an aneurysm as a gnome in people's mouths. I either need medication or I need to switch my medication.
Episode 10. This is probably the worst episode of the entire thing. It's close. This and 12. This is the one where there's the bootleg version of Animaniacs in Russia.
Yeah, again, like we've mentioned this before, it's like the previous Animaniacs were able to do a bit of biting political commentary without it being, I'm sorry, how did you put it earlier? Get it? Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it?
Get it?
Yeah. That. And again, what's the deal with the human animation? Why do they all look so ugly? Well, what's with the one Russian woman with the mouth that stretches out? Well, what is that? Why is she designed like that?
Yeah, I get the anger and frustration and anxiety about Trump and Russia, but my kids watch this and they didn't laugh either. So it's like, I'm not laughing because this is a ham-fisted joke about a now 4 or 5 year old problem.
There's a joke in there about Venezuela, and I got the joke, but I'm like, no kid is going to understand why a satchel of grain costs over 10 billion, whatever your, dollar thing is. It's like, yeah, I get the problem in Venezuela. I watch the news. Yeah, I get the joke.
Yeah. Again, what are you expecting people to do while they're binging this on Hulu? Suddenly get up from their suburban couch and go, "You're right. We need to fix Venezuela." All right. Yeah, this wasn't funny to me. This was a lot of the same shtick, and I was like, this made the writing of the Animaniacs feel ugly. Which I have such positive feelings from the '93 version. And this, while I was entertained and I laughed at times, I when I was done with it, I didn't have that same positive feeling that I get from watching the old show. You know what I mean? Like the old show leaves you feeling, whether or not every episode is a winner, you still feel like there's an innocence to it. This doesn't feel this way. This feels like a harangue.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sorry, but we don't need a cartoon talking about how Russia must constantly worship the ground that Putin works on lest they get thrown into the gulag.
No. And it only gets worse from there. The next one is the one you referenced earlier where a kid eats a meteor and Brain tries to get it back, and it's like,
There's one funny joke in that, and that's when Brain talks to the little girl who has the larger head. There's a bit where they're trying to figure out which kid ate the meteorite, and they're doing it because they have the kid's hat and they're fitting it on the other toddlers. And there's this one little girl he puts a hat on, and the hat's way too small, and he goes, "No, this head's much too big." He's like, perhaps a sign of early, cranial development, and starts talking to the little girl. It's like, perhaps maybe later you and I should talk about that. And she grabs him and shoves him in her mouth.
Yeah, that's funny.
That part didn't make me chuckle. But again, the animation in this episode is so ugly. And how hard is it to animate toddlers, honestly?
The next one where they do the sports press conference, I chuckled at it and I was mildly amused only because I've watched enough UFC post-fight press conferences that they kind of nailed the satire of that sort of thing. But I feel like if I hadn't watched those and hadn't seen how silly they get, like this would have been lost on me too. Certainly my kids didn't get it. They didn't understand what was happening. The next one was the Halloween episode,
which is actually my favorite.
So here's my only issue with this. The first bit is a parody of Poltergeist. No contemporary child has seen Poltergeist. It's a movie from when I was a child.
It's the movie that basically gave us the PG-13 rating.
My point is, they're here, and a child going into the TV is a lost reference on the age group this is intended for. And I say that even if your kids don't... The kids didn't know what the Poltergeist reference was, but they knew it. They knew Pennywise, and they thought that was hilarious. And my kids are notorious chickens. But they thought that was funny.
Not gonna lie, I think the part that actually made me laugh the hardest about that was seeing Yakko, Wacko, and Dot dressed for Halloween as the Marx Brothers.
Yes. I actually thought this was a well-written bit where, Pennywise eats your fears, and because they're not afraid, he keeps losing, and of course he shrinks like he does in the movie. I actually thought it was pretty well written and a pretty funny, like, if you're going to reduce Stephen King's It to something that's palatable for children, I thought they did a good job with it. Of the last couple of episodes, I thought this was actually one of the better ones for that reason.
I also enjoyed a nice little callback to Wacko being afraid of clowns, which was established, again, 93 series with one of my favorite episodes. Where it's Wacko's birthday and Thaddeus Plotz sends a birthday clown up to entertain him without realizing that Wacko is just insanely afraid of clowns.
Go away, clown. I don't like you.
Oh, my God. And, of course, the clown is Paul Rugg, who was a writer on Seven, he's the not Jerry Lewis guy, and he would go on to do a lot more voices for this and other shows. Oh my God, I just love that short.
Oh, little boy.
Oh, a nice puppy boy.
Yes,
Clown!
Nice puppy boy. The Pinky and the Brain bit is a takeoff of Frankenstein, where they make a horrible female Bride of Frankenstein's monster. And Pinky falls in love with it, and they nearly get married. And it was meh. Like, I was mildly amused by it, but again, not the strongest Pinky and the Brain bit.
I did the spork joke. It's like, get your pitchforks. I've got a pitch spork. Will you stop trying to make pitchforks happen? Again, good joke. That was a very good joke.
I actually really like this last bit. Things that go bump in the night, and it's a black background with just eyes, and the eyes are all interacting with one another. I actually thought that was pretty witty.
I did too. Yeah, it's like things that go bump in the night. Bump. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to step on your tail there. You've got a tail. I've got a tail. Bump. Oh, it's too claustrophobic in here. Yeah, it's like a very simple, very funny. I like the animation style too. It was drawn more like it was done with like chalk or pastels than just basic digital format. It was very nice. I liked it. Nice little switch up.
All right, episode 12. If you'll recall our conversation about Looney Tunes, I can't deal with gross. So the first bit is Dot discovers she has a zit, and I went nope and left the room.
The zit sings.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't deal with it in Family Guy. I can't take a drink. I couldn't deal with the Bubblegum episode in Looney Tunes, and I couldn't deal with this. No, thank you.
It does bring up the point that Animaniacs managed to go almost the entire series without any real gross-out humor. They had potty jokes, potty emergency, one of the absolute best Animaniacs episodes ever. And you had burping and things like that, but they managed to stay away from real gross-out humor. This is the first time that I think something like zits. Well, there was excuse me, a Katie Kaboom episode where she got a pimple, but that's a teenager thing, not a gross-out thing.
And I had less of an issue with that than I did with this one. This one, I was like, I don't want to watch this. This is going to be Daffy Duck in the Bubblegum, and I can't handle it. The next one is Pinky and the Brain doing 1001 Arabian Nights, and of course all the stories that the Brain tells. The Sultana, I guess. She does. She of course favors Pinky and not the Brain, and that's therein lies the tension of the episode. It's fine. I laughed at certain things here and there.
Yeah, it's like, skip ad, swing goes the sword. That was funny.
And in one where I feel like the writer showed up for work one day and somebody had a terrible bus ride is the Man-Spreader episode.
Okay. I'm just going to say this as a woman and a feminist. The man-spreading thing is overblown, and you people need to shut the hell up.
Yeah, this definitely felt like somebody just had a bad day and happened to be an Animaniacs writer.
Yeah, I mean, for God's sakes, we have a scene where Dot says, "Don't mansplain man-spreading to me." If there was ever a line that was going to be dated immediately.
So you asked me what my kids thought of it, and I put in the chat that we all share that my son liked the Warner Brothers stuff, but he thought the Pinky and the Brain stuff was boring. Okay. I don't blame him. I mean, half of the last couple of Pinky and the Brain bits that we've talked about, my reaction was meh. So I get it. The 6-year-old didn't think it was funny. My daughter, however, and she just read a whole book about Stonewall, and now she's reading about the women's rights movement, and she's read a variety of books about various important women, and she's a 9-year-old hardcore feminist.
You are saving up for this kid to go to law school one day, right?
Yes.
Okay.
She has rich grandparents. It'll be fine.
Sorry, I think that's exactly what my dad said.
But, I asked my daughter, what did you think of this? And she was like, and all she cared about was Dot. Dot has become a feminist icon. Which, to me, it's okay, I get it. It's 2020. And it appealed to my daughter, so I'll allow it. But it seemed also a little haranguey to me.
It does. This is a weird thing for me because I always felt that in the previous version, all the Warners got an equal chance to shine in their respective strengths. Even though Wacko may have had the least amount of dialogue, he had the most physical humor. I genuinely felt like this series, when they were writing the script, they're like, okay, we're just going to give most of the best lines to Tress MacNeille. Who is the queen of voice acting. All hail the awesomeness that is Tress MacNeille, and I never get sick of her voice. But yeah, I kind of just sat back and was like, so is Dot the leader now, or what?
Right, because it's 2020, and you must elevate all the minorities over, even dog monkey creatures. If they're male and perceived white, they must be pushed down to elevate the minority character. Don't you understand?
Tell me I'm not crazy. That it does feel like.
Oh yeah, they gave the best. They gave Dot all the best stuff. In the beginning, when they were setting things up, Yakko was sort of leading things, but after a few episodes, it was Dot's show. And by the end of it, Dot, the way they wrote Dot, she kind of eclipses Yakko and Wacko, and I absolutely believe that was a conscious decision.
I think I noticed it more because Wacko has always been my favorite character of the Warners. Not only am I more of a fan of the physical humor, I love his voice. I love that he is basically miniature Ringo Starr. I think Jess Harnell was always so funny with his approach to him. And yeah, I was just kind of noticing, I was like, why am I not getting that much Wacko? I want more Wacko. I love Wacko.
Well, men are evil pigs and they all have to die. Don't you understand that?
Well, yeah, of course, but what else is new?
All right. Last episode, we have Hindenburg Cola, which is we finally get Dr. Scratch and Sniff, who was old in the 90s. What the hell?
Seriously, Scratch and Sniff is also voiced by Rob Paulson. This character, it's like if you are going to... They established that Hello Nurse apparently joined Doctors Without Borders, which did make me chuckle a little bit. I'm like, well, obviously, we are not going to get Hello Nurse in this modern age. That joke's not going to fly.
Nope.
But so I thought that was kind of a nice little explain about where she went. But yeah, it's like you brought back Ralph Lagarde. I understand getting a new CEO for the network for Warner Brothers. But if you had Scratch and Sniff and Rob Paulson was willing to do the voice, why has this character not shown up until now?
Well, the setup at the old show was that that these were lunatics, and they were sent to Dr. Scratch and Sniff for therapy, and that was, and therein lied the dramatic tension and the comedy. And by the way, he's responsible for one of my favorite running gags, which is, they refer to him as a pea psychiatrist, and then he yells out, I am a pea... You should go see a pea psychiatrist. I am a pea psychiatrist. I mean a psychiatrist. Every time he would yell, I am a pea psychiatrist, I would crack up. God, I miss that.
I do love how in later episodes it's just like, I am not that father, I am their pea psychiatrist. Yeah, he just gave up. But again, he's a funny character, and sure, obviously the Warners aren't going to see him for therapy anymore, but like I said, we need more established characters to help carry the weight, and Scratch and Sniff has always been funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed Scratch and Sniff in the old show, and I was glad to see that they brought him back and we'll get more of him in season 2. But this bit with him, where he plays sick and he tells him to go get the cola and they run afoul of the Olympic athlete again, it's okay, sure. I think by this point I just wanted it to be over, so I was kind of like, all right, I got it. I'm happy to see Scratch and Sniff. That's my favorite part of this. This is actually a really funny Pinky and the Brain bit. Brain constructs a self-driving car, and they get trapped in it, and they're like forced to go on this road trip. I laughed a lot at that. I thought this was amusing, especially how they got out of it.
Yeah, it's like, you had a tablet this whole time!
And then finally, we get Dot doing a whole song about First Ladies, which she doesn't have enough time for, so it becomes a recitation of people who were First Ladies.
And again, the Warner Animaniacs always had those really great educational songs, and I think a song about the First Ladies could have been fun, but they just sort of ruin it because it becomes clear that they don't really have much to sing about with the majority of the First Ladies.
But that's the thing, had they acknowledged that would have been funny. If, midway through, first of all, take away put the 2 minutes on the clock and just give it the amount of time that it needs. And don't make, the joke is she has to rush through the song. Mm-hmm. That's not funny. And I thought it took away from what I think is a funnier joke, which is some of these women didn't do anything of note. So talk about that. Make that the joke. Have Dot struggling with what to say about this person or that person. Holy shit, she could have done an entire bit on Abe Lincoln's wife, and I think they did acknowledge that, and they just never got to it. And it was like, wow, you really had a germ of a good idea here, executed poorly with money still on the table.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's the end of season 1. This is about 50-50 for me. I laughed. I cried, I hurled. I laughed at about half of it. The other half was a lot of eye-rolling and boredom. So I can't... I think the critical review of this is 80% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. They're charming and chaotic if slightly too caustic. I'm glad we're in the ballpark there. Animaniacs is a delightful revitalization of a beloved series that's fun enough to make up for any early fumbles. Yeah, less Family Guy and more Animaniacs.
Seriously. And again, we're not against you trying out some new characters, some new segments, even though you really need to tone down the surrealism. But yeah, we want to see the background characters get a little bit more development. You guys cannot just keep pushing everything on Yakko, Wacko, and Dot and Pinky and Brain.
All right, so that wraps up our review of Season 1 of Animaniacs. We'll come back and review Season 2 whenever that drops in 2021, assuming it does. I will see this through to the end. I'm hoping, now that it's got its legs under it and they've gotten critical reviews, they go back and they go back to the drawing board and they try some different things. I'm with you. Try to be a little bit more experimental. You're on Hulu. Your platform is a streaming service. Take some chances and stop being so goddamn angry. The election's over. Try some new stuff now. Go for a walk, clear your head. Remember you're mostly pitching to kids here.
Yeah. And for the love of God, work on your songs.
Yes.
I know that you're never going to, compare it to what the great Stonini gave us, but they actually make a joke about how they have one of the original composers still working for them, which is great. But bring back, the Animaniacs has some of the greatest songs to ever come out of a children or an animated show in the 90s. We want that back.
All right, and speaking of animated, my animation expert will be on source material. She makes her glorious return to source material after being locked out of Chris Sheehan month with My Little Pony Transformers. Next Monday on Source Material Live. Aren't you excited?
I meant to ask, what source have you been reading that one from? Because I'm trying to debate if I need to download the Comixology or Kindle so I can read it as a PDF on my computer.
Well, me hearty, I sail the high seas.
Fair enough. Okay.
And
First volume is out of print, so I wanted to make sure that I was going to download a version that I could read on a PDF reader.
Gotcha. But that's not all. Alexis Hejna will also be on the following show, December 14th. She'll be with Christian, as the three of us will be discussing Batman 3 Jokers. And then she gets Christmas week off, because why would you, we're going to be looking at a picture book of Ultimate Warrior raping Santa Claus. I don't think you'd want to be involved in that.
Why are you subjecting yourself to that? Oh my God.
Because I love the Ultimate Warrior.
I know what you're talking about. Atop the Fourth Wall reviewed that years ago.
Nice. But then we will conclude the year with Alexis Hejna again. Wonder Woman is going to be released simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters, wherever their theaters open and people willing to go to them on Christmas Day. So we'll review the movie on December 29th, but in conjunction with that, we will look at a Wonder Woman limited series called Come Back to Me. So we've got My Little Pony Transformers, Batman 3 Jokers, Skip a Week, and Wonder Woman Come Back to Me, all in the month of December. In the meantime, in between time, you can check out our, as I mentioned earlier, Christine and I talking Hart Fisher's unauthorized biography of Jeffrey Dahmer comic book from Boneyard Press. Tomorrow, myself and Jesse Starcher will review the new Hate Breed, because it's time to murder it. And then just announced, because I didn't know this was a thing, I'm a little behind on my wrestling. Apparently AEW is doing a special Dynamite on Wednesday, December 2nd, called AEW Winter is Coming. And the only reason why I care about this is it's Jon Moxley, the Mox, versus the best bout machine, Kenny Omega, for the AEW World title, and some other garbage I don't care about. So, myself and fellow podsman Chris Bailey and I will be reviewing that on December 3rd. AEW Winter is Coming. And if this Saturday's UFC on ESPN fight ends early enough that Robert Winfrey is available to do some boxing coverage with me, I got bit by the bug. And I want to do it again. Want to go down the hole again. We got a pay-per-view coming up this Saturday night, because it's all right for fights. Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia on Fox Sports. I'm going to buy it. If Robert Winfrey is done working by the time the main event starts, which it's a boxing pay-per-view, they'll probably take to the ring at about 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. AM, that is. Then we'll do some more boxing coverage. And if you like our boxing coverage, you can check out me and fellow podsman Chris Bailey covering the Mike Tyson-Roy Jones exhibition. That was a lot of fun. So we got all that in the archives and coming up here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. In the meantime, you have a thing going on with Honeysuckle Rose Creations involving a charity. So you've got a sale and a charity and a this and that. Talk about your this and that.
Well, our holiday sale just wrapped up today, but the good news is that our charity drive is actually going to be continuing until Christmas Day. And what we're doing is that every sale that we make from both our Etsy and our Handmade at Amazon shops, every single sale, not every item, but every individual sale, we will be donating $5 to St. Jude. And at the time of this recording, we just hit our 20th sale, so we're already at $100 for St. Jude, and we still have a month to go. Really excited for this. We do this every year. I love this charity drive. I love giving back to this. So, go ahead and check out our shops. Again, we have Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We're always uploading new products. We just uploaded our brand new charm bracelets that are made from Operation tokens, Funny Bones, Spare Ribs, Rider's Cramp, Adam's Apple, all that fun stuff that you couldn't get out of the human body without touching the sides and going zzz. And, of course, you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right. Always appreciate having you on. She'll be back for all those comic books that I told you about, but also she'll be reviewing Soul and Wonder Woman 1984 at the end of the month. So Alexis Hejna still hanging around this place doing a thing. We always enjoy having her on here, especially to talk her expertise, which is animation. With that being said, thank you for joining us here on TV Party Tonight. For Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Good night, everybody.